Hey there, Ryan Kingslien here, founder of ZBrush Workshops. So when you start the brand new ZBrush, you're going to see something like this. And if you're brand new to ZBrush, let me just walk you through what you're looking at real quickly. And if you're already used to it, then just give me a moment. I'm just gonna take a few seconds to explain what we've got here. So the first thing that we've got is the canvas. Okay, and this is part of the old school ZBrush. So basically we're talking about this whole area with the gradient. Okay, and then we've got Lightbox. And this is ZBrush's way of finding files, working with files, and preset projects that are within ZBrush. Really, the primary function of Lightbox is to be able to get you preset tools, projects, things that can get you started right away so that you're not having to load them in. You just see it and say, click. You know, just tink, tink, and you're done. Now you can switch to tool, to brush. I think you're going to switch to tool and brush the most. You might store alphas there, or you might load them within ZBrush. You might store grids. Okay, that's actually going to be something that is going to be more and more useful with some of the changes. All right, and then you've got your tray. Okay, now you might have used ZBrush forever and just never known that this is called a tray, but that's what it is. And you can open and close the tray with these arrows right here. You can see one arrow and then another arrow. And if you're mindful, you'd look over here on the side, you see the exact same thing. One arrow in one direction, the other arrow in another direction. That's because there's a tray in there. This is pretty obvious. This is the menu up here. This is even more obvious. This is how they keep track of you. See my little serial number up there? Okay, that's how they're keeping track of you. This is how you're closing it. There's some buttons up here I want you to kind of think about. Let me do these in red. This is changing colors, and up here in the corner you're changing interfaces, preset interfaces. And you might, if you become a pro user, you might develop interfaces for texturing. You might develop them for sculpting. Now, when I was there, that was the idea, because this was actually developed while I was doing product management work there and part of the development team. The idea was people are going to want different layouts for different activities. Okay, now we even have a layout in there. The layout that is looks like, say, Maya or Photoshop is the one that I created as a transitionary user interface. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But most important is that you sculpt, you get sculpting, and you get something that works for you. Now, I never change the interface because I'm always working with beginners. All right, now there's some other elements that we've kind of left out. Let's do those in white. Okay, these are all called basically shelves. That's a shelf along the top. Okay, this is a shelf along the side. This is a shelf along the side. And what you may not know is there's actually two shelves down here. Okay? And in order to get to these shelves, you have to enable custom UI in the preference. Okay? But that's a quick overview of the way that the UI is kind of spread out and what the different elements are. So let's take a quick look at other interfaces. That's going to be these items up here at the top. So you can see some of the flexibility that you have. All right, so I'm just going to go through. That's one interface. This is another. This is the one I created, Sculpt 01. And that's our default. Okay? So we're going to leave it at the default, but I'm going to make a couple of changes I always make. One of them is I'm going to get rid of Lightbox. Okay, and I'm just going to do that by clicking that Lightbox button. And then I'm going to go into Document and I'm going to set range to 0. Okay, let me just leave my cursor there. And if you set range to 0, that means there's no gradient. Okay, and that's a personal preference. I do that for all my videos. It's about the one change I make. Okay, and then I have some buttons that I drag down here to the side. You know, that I use all the time. But how do you get started? What do you do if this is your first time opening it, or let's say this is your 10th time opening it, you're just getting started, what is the process? Okay, and what are the steps, and how can you avoid spending hours of just kind of struggling with this different interface? That's what I want to show you in the next video, is how you're going to get started, wasting no time and focusing on just the essentials.